This is the eastern shore of Maryland. Boundless and beautiful and full of stories, it doesn't come to mind when most people think of Maryland. Though it makes up more than a third of the state's land, it only accounts for 8% of the population. Home to thousands of acres of wetlands, the low-lying nature of the land creates a sensitive vulnerability to sea level rise. Across the mid-Atlantic region today exists a phenomenon which is killing forests, degrading soil health, and contaminating freshwater in a manner that's invisible from the surface. This very phenomenon is responsible for the loss of agricultural land and has impacted communities across the eastern United States. This issue is saltwater intrusion, an invisible threat to many livelihoods and ecosystems. Saltwater intrusion occurs when the salinity of the soil increases due to sea level rise.
You're going to continue to see the destruction of the forests. The trees are going to die off more, and it's going to get to the point that it's going to be Phragmites and ducks, because it's going to become a great marshland. But slowly, there's going to be nothing that actually survives that's saltwater rising.
This is Mike Calders, a resident of Crapo, Maryland. His history on this land goes back 3 generations as a loblolly pine farmer. However, since the time of his grandfather, over 2/3 of his land has turned into marsh through sea level rise and saltwater intrusion, putting his heritage and the chance to pass his land down to his children at risk. I talked to him about what he thought the future holds for Crapo and the rest of the Eastern Shore.
But you notice how thin it is down there? Because all the trees all the way out to the marsh are all dying off. You just see them. These are just the few survivors, and sooner or later so no longer can you timber.
And so this wasn't a marsh when you were a kid?
No, when I was a kid, this was the ditch line, and this road went all the way down to Farm Creek. But the neighbors, and I talked to them about some of your questions, this is what they're finding. Their kids do not want to stay here. There's not much for them. The tide is rising, it's becoming more marshland, and there's not a lot of opportunity, and they don't want to be watermen like their parents. They want to go to school outside of the area and then leave. So you'll see houses that are abandoned if you drove all the way down, or older houses that are run down because the rising tide and the salt water makes it very hard on maintenance. It starts to cost a lot of money to maintain these, and after a while you get tired of your house flooding and replacing the carpet. We did not have this constant flooding. Everything was drier. We were able to run around, play, and things like that. Now with the rising tide, sometimes the whole yard's underwater. My kids, they loved it when they were younger, but as they got older, they ran into the same thing. There's not even a store. There's nowhere to go to hang out. No bowling alley, no anything. You have to go all the way to Cambridge, and it's 30 to 35 minutes each way. And without any internet here, it makes it even more difficult for them to stay connected. So they loved to come down and visit, but as they became older, they were like, they wanted no part. So I'm hoping that as they get older and they have kids, they'll bring them down, and I'll take care of them here. Hopefully they'll leave them here all summer, and the kids can be kids and play in the woods and understand the environmental side and what's really going on with the entire ocean and the rising tide.